lights dim, a glass case glowing softly, and inside it a crown that once ruled life and death. In ancient Egypt, crowns were not fashion statements, they were forces. People believed these objects could command gods, bend fate, and even keep the universe from collapsing into chaos. To modern eyes, they look like ritual art. To ancient Egyptians, they were active instruments of power. This story is not about magic tricks or fantasy alone, but about how belief, symbolism, and authority fused so tightly that a crown could terrify enemies, calm a nation, and convince a single human being that he was more than flesh and bone. In Egypt, power was never invisible. It had shape, color, weight, and ritual. The crown was the most visible proof that a man had crossed the boundary between human and divine. When a pharaoh placed a crown on his head, he did not simply become king, he became a living axis between earth and sky. Farmers planting crops, soldiers marching to war, and priests whispering prayers all believed the crown focused cosmic energy. This belief was not abstract. It affected daily life, taxes, laws, and even how people understood natural disasters. When floods failed or enemies invaded, many believed the crown had lost harmony with the gods. The white crown of Upper Egypt, tall and ghostly, was said to carry the calm authority of the southern lands. Legends claimed it could bring order where chaos threatened. When worn during rituals, priests believed the crown amplified the pharaoh's voice so the gods could hear him clearly. From a modern view, the crown's power lay in psychology. Its stark shape created instant recognition and obedience. Yet for the ancient mind, recognition itself was sacred. Seeing the white crown meant stability. It reassured farmers their harvests would continue and convinced rebels that resistance was not just treason, but a cosmic crime against the universe itself. The red crown of Lower Egypt told a different story. Wide, aggressive, and crowned with a curling spiral, it symbolized dominance over the fertile delta. Stories claimed it gave the pharaoh the strength of Horus in battle and the cunning of a serpent. Soldiers swore morale surged when they saw it on the battlefield. Today, we might call this symbolism or propaganda. But for those who lived and died by the Nile, belief was reality. If an army believed their king wore a crown blessed by gods, fear alone could decide a battle before the first spear was thrown. When the two lands united, the crowns merged into the pshent, the double crown. This was not just political symbolism, it was metaphysical engineering. Egyptians believed the universe itself depended on balance, known as Ma'at. The double crown represented that balance made visible. Wearing it meant the pharaoh was actively holding reality together. Myths claimed if the crown were removed or misused, chaos would seep into the world. Modern historians see a sophisticated understanding of governance here. Unity needed ritual reinforcement. The crown became a daily reminder that separation, rebellion, or imbalance was not only illegal but dangerously unnatural. One of the most feared symbols attached to Egyptian crowns was the Uraeus, the rearing cobra fixed to the forehead. Legends said it spat divine fire at enemies, killing them instantly. Foreigners reportedly trembled at the sight. In truth, the Uraeus was a masterclass in psychological warfare. The cobra represented Wadjet, a protective goddess always alert. To see a king wearing a living symbol of instant death was terrifying. Even today, humans instinctively fear snakes. Ancient Egyptians understood this deeply. They weaponized instinct, turning primal fear into political stability, all through a symbol fixed to a crown. Gold crowns carried another layer of mystery. Gold was not merely valuable, it was eternal. Egyptians believed gold was the flesh of the gods, immune to decay. A gold crown suggested the king himself was becoming divine, untouchable by time or disease. When sunlight struck such a crown, it was said to blind enemies and attract the gods' attention. Scientifically, gold reflects light beautifully. Symbolically, it reflected immortality. For common people who watched their loved ones die young, the idea that their ruler could transcend decay was both comforting and terrifying, reinforcing obedience through awe. Perhaps the most intimate crowns were the ceremonial headdresses worn during religious festivals. These were believed to temporarily transform the king into a specific god. During these moments, people did not see a ruler pretending to be divine, they believed the transformation was real. The crown acted like a switch, activating divine presence. Modern psychology would call this role immersion. The king himself likely felt changed, burdened, empowered, and isolated by belief. When everyone around you treats you as a god, the line between performance and identity begins to blur, reshaping decisions and behavior in profound ways. One of the strangest beliefs was that crowns could judge the worthiness of the wearer. Texts hint that an unworthy king might fall ill or face disaster because the crown rejected him. This idea protected the system. If a ruler failed, blame shifted to divine disfavor, not flawed governance. It also pressured kings to perform rituals obsessively, fearing the crown's wrath. From a modern lens, this resembles institutional control. The object was never questioned, the man was. The crown became both a symbol of power and a silent threat hanging over the king's own head. There were also rumors of cursed crowns. Stories circulated of rulers who wore sacred crowns improperly and died soon after. These tales spread quickly, especially during unstable periods. They reinforced respect for tradition. If a crown could kill a king, imagine what it could do to a commoner. In reality, political assassinations, disease, and stress likely caused these deaths. Yet myth transformed coincidence into cautionary legend. The crown remained pure, the individual was flawed. This narrative protected the institution of kingship across generations, even when individual rulers failed spectacularly. The blue crown, often associated with war, is one of the most misunderstood. Many assume it was purely military, but Egyptians believed it heightened focus and courage. It was worn during ceremonies meant to project strength, not just in battle. The crown's textured surface may have held symbolic meaning, possibly linked to celestial protection. When people saw it, they believed the king was mentally sharpened by divine will. In modern terms, this resembles how uniforms affect confidence and performance. The blue crown worked because everyone believed it worked, including the man wearing it. Crowns were also tools of memory. Each time a new king wore an ancient crown, he inherited centuries of stories. He was not starting fresh, he was continuing a cosmic contract. This continuity stabilized society. Imagine inheriting not just a throne, but a legend. The weight of expectation alone could shape a ruler's personality. Egyptians believed the crown remembered past kings and demanded similar devotion. Whether literal or symbolic, this idea turned history into authority. The past ruled the present through metal, cloth, and carefully preserved myth. Some crowns were never meant for public eyes. Hidden within temples, they were used only in rituals meant to renew the king's power. These ceremonies were secretive, dramatic, and deeply emotional. Priests claimed the crown absorbed divine energy during these rites. From a modern perspective, secrecy increases perceived power. What is hidden feels dangerous and sacred. By limiting access, the priesthood controlled narrative and reinforced their role as intermediaries. The crown became a shared secret between gods, priests, and kings, excluding the public while still ruling them. The connection between crowns and the afterlife was equally powerful. Pharaohs were often buried with ceremonial crowns or their representations. Egyptians believed the crown was needed beyond death to rule in the next world. Without it, the king risked losing authority among the gods. This belief mirrors human fear of losing identity after death. The crown preserved status forever. Today, we might see this as symbolism, but for ancient Egyptians, eternity was practical. Preparing for the afterlife was as important as governing the living. There is also a human side to these stories. Imagine a young king, barely prepared, feeling the cold weight of a crown placed on his head. Everyone kneels. No one questions him. The crown does not just empower, it isolates. Believing you must maintain cosmic balance is a crushing responsibility. Some kings likely found comfort in believing the crown guided them. Others may have feared it. Myth and psychology intertwine here, revealing that power can be as terrifying as it is intoxicating. Modern science offers alternative explanations for their powers of crowns. Rituals created heightened emotional states. Symbols triggered obedience. Repetition reinforced belief. Together, these elements produced real-world effects: loyalty, fear, unity. The power was not supernatural, but it was real. Even today, uniforms, titles, and symbols shape behavior instantly. Ancient Egyptians simply perfected this understanding earlier than most civilizations. Their crowns were technologies of the mind, engineered through myth, artistry, and ritual to control vast populations without constant force. Yet dismissing everything as illusion misses something important. Belief itself is powerful. When millions act as if something is sacred, it becomes sacred in effect. Crowns organized society, reduced chaos, and provided meaning. They answered existential questions: who rules? Why obey? What keeps the world from falling apart? In this sense, the crown's power was not fake. It functioned exactly as intended. The myth was the mechanism. Truth and belief fused until separating them became impossible. Archaeological discoveries continue to challenge assumptions. Some crowns show signs of wear inconsistent with daily use, suggesting they were ceremonial amplifiers, not decorations. Others were designed to be seen from great distances, reinforcing presence rather than comfort. Every design choice mattered. Nothing was accidental. Each curve, color, and symbol communicated authority instantly, even to the illiterate. In a society where most could not read, the crown spoke louder than words. It was leadership made visible. One striking detail is how crowns were rarely depicted alone. They were shown interacting with gods. This visual storytelling reinforced the idea that power flowed through the crown, not from the man. Remove the crown, and the man becomes ordinary. This concept protected society from total collapse if a ruler died. The institution survived because the crown, not the individual, was eternal. Even rebellion often targeted the man, not the symbol, revealing how deeply the idea had taken root. When Egypt fell to foreign rule, conquerors adopted Egyptian crowns and symbols. They understood that real control required spiritual legitimacy. This proves the crown's power transcended belief systems. Even outsiders recognized its influence. The myth worked regardless of who believed it first. Power, once encoded into symbol, becomes transferable. This is one of Egypt's greatest legacies. They taught the world how authority could be manufactured, preserved, and inherited through ritual objects. Today, when we see replicas in museums, the power feels distant. Glass cases replace temples. Labels replace prayers. Yet the reaction remains. People fall silent. They lean closer. Something about these objects still commands attention. That lingering effect is the echo of belief. The crown may no longer rule nations, but it still rules imagination. It reminds us how easily humans respond to symbols when meaning is layered deeply enough. The myth of strange powers persists because it speaks to a universal desire. We want objects to protect us, guide us, justify us. Crowns did this perfectly. They told kings they were chosen and told subjects they were safe. Whether or not divine energy flowed through them is almost irrelevant. The outcome was real. Empires rose, laws were obeyed, wars were fought, and peace was maintained, all under the silent authority of a crafted object. In modern life, crowns have been replaced by suits, flags, and logos. The mechanism remains the same. Authority still needs symbols. Egypt's crowns were simply more honest about it. They openly claimed divine power, while modern symbols often disguise it as bureaucracy or tradition. Studying these crowns forces us to confront how belief shapes reality, then and now. The ancient world is not as distant as we think. So were the powers of Egyptian crowns myth or truth? The answer depends on how we define power. If power means shooting fire or casting spells, then myth dominates. But if power means shaping minds, controlling behavior, and sustaining order across millennia, then the truth is undeniable. These crowns worked. They did exactly what they were designed to do, using belief as their energy source. In the end, the strangest power of all may be this: thousands of years later, these crowns still command attention. They still inspire stories, fear, and fascination. Long after the gods faded and temples crumbled, the idea of the crown remains potent. Ancient Egypt understood something timeless, that humans do not just follow leaders, they follow meaning. And few objects in history carried meaning as completely, or as dangerously, as the crown.